Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reader's Intrigue, where authors are going to read the first chapter of their book so that we can be intrigued and maybe find a new book to read. Get comfy, get cozy. Let's listen.
Hi, my name's Tim McCarthy, and I'm here to intrigue you, the reader, about my book, Raising Four-Dimensional Children in a Two-Dimensional World. Now, what does that mean? Let's start with the two-dimensional world. I believe we live in a two-dimensional world, the world of screens, phones, computers, tablets, and even televisions. So that's the two-dimensional world, length and width, but no depth. I want to have you raise your children in a four-dimensional world, get them off the screen and into the real world that has depth, but also has time. According to H.G. Wells, the fourth dimension is time. If something doesn't have duration, if it doesn't last for a little while, then we don't really realize that it's not real to us. So the four dimensions, length, width, depth, and time. But I parallel that to the four dimensions of human potential, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. So we're going to talk about that in a little more detail. But let's just start off a little bit about me. I've always believed that if what you read makes sense, it should stand on its own, regardless of who wrote it. Unfortunately, in this time of social media misinformation and intentional disinformation, the source of the information becomes paramount. Therefore, I feel compelled to tell you a little bit about myself so you can more easily accept what I have to say. I am and have been an educator for over 40 years. I have a master's degree in education and 10 years experience as a classroom teacher and administrator in both public and private schools. What gives me a unique perspective is that I'm also a grandmaster of the martial arts with over 40 years experience teaching both children and adults. I've personally taught thousands of students of all ages using both Eastern and Western philosophies of education. For 20 of those years, I also designed educational courses and curricula in the martial arts. I didn't invent the idea that human beings have four dimensions, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's an Eastern way of looking at the human experience that I learned in my martial arts training, and very different from our current Western educational system. American public schools focus on the mental dimension and provide very limited physical education. Emotional education may be provided by some exceptional teachers, and as I found out recently, is part of the curriculum in most schools. But spiritual education has been forced out of the school system by lawsuits. That's why I chose to leave the school system to teach and develop students in all four dimensions, and I've designed martial art programs that have been used by hundreds of schools across the US and Canada, and in some other countries as well. Now, I'm making those same educational principles available to you in this book. You don't need a degree in education or psychology to raise well-balanced children. What you do need is the desire to be the best parent you can be. I had the good fortune to be raised by good parents, and I believe there's no greater blessing in the world than to be born into a loving family. I learned a lot about good parenting from them, but you can't choose your parents. You can only play the cards you're dealt. But having good parents is a great start to a winning hand. Now, if you decide to read this book, you have a choice. You can be that good parent who's a blessing to your children, or you can be selfish and ignorant of good parenting practices. I strongly believe in the first choice, and if you read my book, I believe you do too. In this book, I've done my best to make that first choice easy. I spent years studying both Eastern and Western education. I've tested and improved myself in all 4 dimensions in my personal training. I've researched developmental child psychology. I've digested many years of experience and research to give you the simple, easy to follow guide for raising a child balanced in all 4 dimensions. This book is not a novel for you to read cover to cover. You probably would be interested in the book because you have 1 or maybe a couple of children, so the chapter for your child's age is the most important to you. I just ask that after reading this introduction, you read the first chapter to understand the foundation of the 4 dimensions, and after that, you can skip ahead to the chapter that is appropriate to the age of your children. If you have time, you might read the chapter before or the chapter after to make sure that you have an understanding of where you're coming from and where you're going. This book is designed so you can quickly get the information and activities you need and then refer back to them as your child grows and your needs change. There's a lot of information packed into relatively few pages, so I encourage you to reread it often. So let's get into exactly what's in the book. The first chapter is the foundation. And in the foundation, I describe the 4 dimensions. I break down each one into the building blocks of the physical dimension and the processes. The building blocks and processes in the mental dimension. Building blocks and processes in the emotional dimension. And then when we go to the spiritual dimension, I break down the processes into awareness, evaluation, and intention. I think it's very good philosophy for you to understand, so it's important that I include it in every chapter. Now let me say right now, as we talk about the chapters and how it's not intended as a novel, you can buy the book as a book, but if you have a special child that you're worried about, you can buy the chapter only for your age group. So what are those age groups? After the foundation in chapter 1, chapter 2 is prenatal care. Chapter 3, infancy. Chapter 4, toddlers. 5, early childhood. 6, childhood. 7, middle childhood. 8, preteen years. And 9, adolescence. So we cover every age group in each of the 4 dimensions. So in each chapter, I'll introduce it with a story. So again, non-traditional book. It starts with a fictional story that illustrates parenting of 2 extremes, and you can try this way or that way. After you read the story, I break down the age group into the brain development and what's happening to the child physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, their capabilities and their limitations. And then, in each section, I offer activities. So you don't just get theory, you get practice. Now that you understand how your child's brain is working, these are some activities to help it develop and move up to the next level. So I've got over 400 activities in the book, again, from infancy all the way through adolescence to help your child advance. Then I offer some closing thoughts at the end, just on parenting in general and your job as a parent, and then some psychological integration, where I talk about how my book relates to Piaget, Kohlberg, Jung, NLP and CBT, and even Ken Wilber. So I believe it's a complete, quick understanding of parenting from a new perspective. That is, 4-dimensional parenting, raising your child not just to be smart, but to be strong, smart, emotionally secure, and morally sound, a good child. So the four-dimensional parenting. If you want to follow me, if you want to find out more about my stuff, you could go to YouTube and look up four-dimensional parenting, or you could see more of my martial arts activities at Grandmaster Tim McCarthy. If you look up 4D Parents on Twitter, Instagram, or Pinterest, you can see some of my stuff. On Facebook, Tim McCarthy 56481, or just look for my picture. And LinkedIn, same thing, Tim McCarthy 654-662-179. Again, look for my picture. If you're interested in the book, go to 4d-2d.com. You can buy the entire book as a paperback, as an immediate download for under $5, or the chapter for your child for under $1. You can also buy it on Amazon. Just look up Raising Four-Dimensional, and that should get you to the right page. I've also got a blog on 4d-2d.com where I weekly give some information away about parenting. You can check it out before you buy the book if you like. But seriously, for $1, what have you got to lose? Find out, buy the chapter for your child, and see what kind of advice I give. If you like it, come back and buy the whole book. Thank you. I hope I've intrigued you, the reader, to check out my book, Raising Four-Dimensional Children in a Two-Dimensional World.
Thank you again to the amazing author that read us a story, and be sure to check out all the other amazing shows on RB Media. Till next time, bye!